Do this right now. Swallow once, just once, and pay attention to what you feel at the back of your throat. Is there something sitting there? A coating? A thickness that does not move no matter how many times you clear it? Good, because what you just noticed is exactly what this video is about. Most people your age have been living with this for months, sometimes years, and they have quietly accepted it as just part of getting older. It is not. Your body is producing that mucus for a specific reason. 5 specific reasons, actually. And I am going to walk you through every single one of them, and then tell you which 2 are almost certainly working together right now to make everything dramatically worse. I'm Dr. Gerald Mark. And what I am about to tell you is something I find myself explaining every single week to patients who have been carrying this problem for 6, 12, sometimes 18 months with no real answer. That pattern tells me something important is being missed. Not in the medicine, in the conversation. Persistent throat mucus quietly becomes part of your daily life. You carry water everywhere. You clear your throat dozens of times before noon. You avoid certain foods because they feel worse. But here is what the research consistently shows. Persistent throat mucus in this age group is not random. Your body produces that mucus for a specific reason. Most people never get that answer. They get management strategies instead of understanding. If even 2 of those things are true for you right now, the water bottle, the throat clearing, the avoiding certain foods, you are exactly who this video is for. Your body is producing mucus constantly. That mucus is essential. It protects your airways, it traps bacteria and dust, it keeps your throat moist. Mucus is not the problem. The problem is what happens to it as you age. Think of your airways like a conveyor belt running 24 hours a day. In a younger person, mucus gets produced and immediately swept upward by tiny hair-like structures called cilia. But as we age, that conveyor belt slows down. The result is that mucus cleared in seconds at age 30 can sit and accumulate for hours at age 70. This is simply the physiology that matters for everything we are going to discuss today. Once that conveyor belt slows, any factor pushing your body toward making more mucus will hit harder and last longer. Before I go further, drop a comment right now. Is your throat mucus worse first thing in the morning, or does it stay with you all day long? Write morning or all day in the comments. I want to tell you about Raymond. He is 68. He spent his whole life in construction. About 18 months ago, he started noticing something. First thing in the morning, his throat had heaviness to it. By month 3, it was there all day. By month 6, he was buying lozenges in bulk. Raymond came to see me convinced something was wrong with his lungs. But here is what was actually happening. He would come home from work, eat dinner around 6 o'clock, and be lying down by 6:30. His stomach was still processing food when he was flat on his back. And because of silent reflux acid traveling from his stomach up into his throat with no heartburn to warn him, his body was responding by producing extra protective mucus every single night while he slept. He also took a blood pressure medication that carries a specific side effect in his age group, a throat irritation that develops slowly, weeks or months after starting, that nobody ever connects to the pill bottle. And his sinuses, mildly inflamed from years on job sites, were draining down the back of his throat all day long. 3 separate causes, all invisible, all working together. If Raymond's story sounds familiar, type the word familiar in the comments right now. If you are finding this genuinely useful, subscribe to The Healthy Habit right now and turn on notifications. This channel exists because people your age deserve honest, clear information about their own body. Cause 1. Silent reflux is the most frequently missed explanation. Most people know about heartburn, but there is a quieter version. It is reflux without the burn. No chest pain, just a throat that feels coated. At the junction where your esophagus meets your stomach, there is a muscular valve. As we age, this valve loses its tone, and when that happens, stomach acid makes its way upward all the way to your throat. The tissue in your throat was not designed to handle acid. Even a small trace triggers an immediate protective response. Your body rushes to produce thick mucus to coat and protect that irritated tissue. But when this happens, night after night while you sleep, you wake up every morning to that heaviness with no heartburn to tell you why. Research shows that up to half of people with this condition report zero heartburn, just morning throat mucus, a voice that sounds rough when you first wake up. Ask yourself honestly right now, is your throat significantly worse in the morning than later in the day? Does it worsen when you bend forward? Has your voice sounded different when you first wake up? If you answered yes to even one of those, silent reflux is a likely explanation. Cause 2. Postnasal drip stays hidden because it does not announce itself dramatically. But in many adults your age, chronic sinus inflammation is almost invisible. Breathing feels mostly fine. No significant headache, and yet the sinuses are draining steadily down the back of your throat all day long. This is not seasonal allergies. This is low-level chronic inflammation. People dealing with this often buy antihistamines and are disappointed when nothing changes. Antihistamines dry the mucus temporarily, but do nothing for the underlying sinus inflammation. What actually works is something simple and affordable. Regular nasal rinsing using warm saline. High-volume saline rinses physically remove inflammatory mucus, reduce swelling, and improve the ciliary clearance function we talked about earlier. Cause 3. Medications. A class of blood pressure medications called ACE inhibitors carry a recognized side effect. They allow a substance called bradykinin to accumulate in the body. And in between 5 and 20% of people who take them, that accumulation triggers persistent throat irritation. This is not an allergy, it is simply how the drug works. The side effect can take weeks or months to develop after starting the medication. A large study found that adults over 65 had a 53% higher odds of experiencing this side effect. If you take a blood pressure medication and you are unsure whether it belongs to this class, your pharmacist can answer that in under a minute. Alternative medication categories, called ARBs, control blood pressure equally well without this specific side effect. If you are still with me, and this is giving you real clarity, type the number 3 inches the comments right now. Cause 4. Dehydration. Your mucus is mostly water. Its consistency is directly related to how well hydrated the surrounding tissue is. Think of maple syrup fresh from the bottle versus maple syrup that has been sitting open overnight. Your mucus behaves in exactly the same way based on your hydration state. Research has established clearly that the thirst mechanism becomes significantly less reliable as we age. You can be dehydrated enough to noticeably affect your mucus consistency without feeling particularly thirsty at all. A practical fluid target is approximately 30 milliliters per kilogram of body weight per day from all sources. But the behavioral key is deliberate, consistent intake throughout the day. Think about yesterday honestly, what you actually drank. If the answer is mostly coffee in the morning, and whatever was available after that, your mucus is thicker than it needs to be right now. That is not a failure. It is just physiology you were never told about. And it is one of the fastest things to change. The 5th cause is one that I save for last deliberately, because it is the one that surprises people most. For a meaningful portion of people dealing with persistent throat mucus, the root of the problem is in the gut. Your digestive tract and your respiratory system share regulatory pathways. The health of your gut microbiome, the trillions of bacteria living in your intestines, directly influences how reactive your upper airways are. When the balance of your gut microbiome becomes disrupted, it can activate immune responses that promote mucus overproduction in your airways. Not because something is physically wrong with your throat, but because your gut is sending inflammatory signals. This connection is called the gut-lung axis. Multiple peer-reviewed studies have confirmed that gut microbiome disruption can trigger immune responses that promote airway inflammation. What disrupts the gut microbiome? A diet low in fiber and fermented foods, repeated courses of antibiotics, high sugar intake, chronic stress. You will not fix a gut-airway axis problem with a lozenge, but you can begin supporting your gut microbiome through consistent daily choices. Type gut in the comments if that last one surprised you. Before I give you the action plan, I want to address something directly. Honey is genuinely soothing for irritated throat tissue, but it does not address any of the 5 causes we covered today. Apple cider vinegar is widely suggested online, but for anyone dealing with silent reflux, introducing additional acid can actually make the problem worse. Working with patients on exactly this issue, I put together something I call the source and solution method. First, you identify the source. Which of the 5 causes are most likely operating in your body based on your specific pattern? Once you know the source, everything that follows becomes targeted and practical. Second, you apply the solution directly to that source. Not generic throat remedies. Specific interventions matched to what is actually happening. First, stop eating at least 3 full hours before you lie down. 3 hours of upright time after your last meal is one of the most evidence-supported behavioral steps for reducing nighttime silent reflux. Second, elevate the head of your bed slightly, using a firm wedge under the mattress. Even a few centimeters of incline uses gravity to your advantage, and meaningfully reduces how much acid can travel toward your throat while you sleep. Third, tomorrow morning, before anything else, drink 1 to 2 glasses of plain warm water. It is one of the most consistently reported impactful changes people make. It costs nothing. Fourth, this week get a nasal rinsing device from your pharmacy. Give it 2 full weeks of consistent daily use. Consistency is what separates the people who see results. Fifth, make an appointment to review your medication list, specifically in relation to your throat symptoms. If you take a blood pressure medication, ask directly whether it is an ACE inhibitor and whether an ARB might be appropriate. Sixth, add 1 small daily serving of fermented food to your routine. Plain yogurt with live cultures, kefir, or sauerkraut. These begin to diversify the bacteria in your gut in ways that research links to reduced airway inflammation. Seventh, set hydration reminders on your phone. Keep water accessible in every room where you spend time. Eat more water-rich whole foods. Before you go, please make an appointment with your doctor promptly if you notice mucus consistently tinged with blood, difficulty swallowing that is gradually getting worse, unexplained weight loss, a lump or persistent swelling in your neck, or a significant voice change that is not improving. Here is what I want you to walk away with today. Silent reflux, happening invisibly while you sleep, is often the primary driver, and elevating your bed and timing your meals can make a real difference starting tonight. Post-nasal drip from chronic sinus inflammation is almost certainly also operating, and daily nasal rinsing is the research-supported solution that actually works. Medication side effects from ACE inhibitors are developing months after you started taking them, and a conversation with your doctor about switching medication classes could change everything. Chronic mild dehydration is running just below the level that triggers thirst, and deliberate hydration throughout the day will thin your mucus within days. And gut microbiome disruption is sending inflammatory signals your airways are responding to, and adding fermented foods to your daily routine begins a long-term shift that research connects to reduced airway inflammation. I planted an open loop at the beginning of this video. I promised you would understand which 2 causes are almost certainly working together. That answer is silent reflux and post-nasal drip. They almost always overlap. And I want to come back to the question I asked you at the beginning, whether your mucus is worse in the morning or all day long. If it is worst in the morning and improves through the day, silent reflux is your primary driver. If it stays with you all day without much change, post-nasal drip is likely the dominant factor. Now, you have a starting point that is specific to you. Most people your age will scroll past information like this without a second thought. But you watched this entire video. You chose to understand your body instead of just managing its symptoms. That choice makes you genuinely different now. What you just received is something real. It is a clear, honest explanation of why your throat feels the way it does, backed by research, grounded in clinical observation. You came into this video uncertain. You are leaving with the source and solution method, a clear framework for identifying what is actually driving your symptoms. You know the 5 specific causes. You know which 2 are almost certainly working together. You know exactly what to start tonight. That is genuine capability. And you are part of something real here. The Healthy Habit is a living community of people who make the daily choice to show up for their own health and for the people they love. By watching this video, you made that choice today. Before you go, Think of one person in your life who has been quietly dealing with this same problem. Share this video with that person, not as a diagnosis, not as medical advice, but as an act of genuine care. That one share could change how that person understands their own body. Please subscribe to The Healthy Habit and turn on notifications. This channel exists to give you exactly this kind of honest, clear, practical health information, the kind that used to only be available if you were lucky enough to have a doctor in the family. And before you go, tell me in the comments right now, which of these 5 causes surprised you the most? And how long have you been dealing with this? I read every single comment personally. This is a real conversation, and your experience genuinely matters here. Small habits, done consistently, are the most powerful medicine your body will ever receive. I'm Dr. Gerald Mark. Build one healthy habit today, and I'll see you in the next one. Everything I have shared today is for general informational purposes only, based on published research and clinical observation. It is not a personal diagnosis, and it is not a substitute for care from your own doctor. Please consult your physician or a qualified healthcare provider before making any changes to your medications, diet, supplements, or health routine.